Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to AVX Live. We actually took a week off last week. Ryan, did you even know we took a week off?
I did. I know how much it irritated you too. So,
well, listen, in case you guys don't know, this is the world famous Ryan Finch.
World famous. I didn't know I was world famous, but I guess today I am. So
today you are. Okay, we're on the internet. Everybody's world famous on the internet. I mean, also, our creative technology director. I mean, you didn't know he was all these things.
Double threat.
Either way, today we're going to talk a little bit of tech, a little bit of virtual. We are actually welcoming back a guest for the first time. This is a big deal, big deal. But we're very excited to have him on. Before we get there, though, Ryan, how about you walk us through some of those very important things?
Very important things indeed. Well, if you are watching this on Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, you can like, comment, share, or subscribe. Any of those things, all of the above, would be super, super appreciated. Tremendously helpful. Keeps us, actively doing these things. We take fewer weeks off when we get those things, so that's nice. Wednesdays, 1 p.m. Eastern, on all of those channels. You can come on back and check out our show each and every week. So please show some love.
Okay, and maybe there's one more. How about if they want to be a part of the show, they just drop a little comment.
2 out of 3 ain't bad, right?
That's
yeah,
close.
Please drop a comment on any of those platforms, and we can bring your comment right into the show. If you ask a question, we will answer it live because we are live. So there we go. That's the 1 week off rust. Okay. That's what you're seeing right here.
You're off the hook. That's okay. So listen, as we were saying, today's guest is part of the technology and the broadcast world. Everybody knows we've been talking about our transition from in-person events to virtual events and to hybrid events and every other type of event. It seems to be changing daily. And that's why we thought it would make sense to bring on an industry expert and say, hey, what's been going on in your world the last 6 months and what's changed? So we're actually going to welcome back Anthony Burokas, head of streaming for DHD Films. I mean, this guy's a 25-year television production veteran and award-winning producer. So that's why we thought he's the right guy to bring back for round 2. So everybody, please welcome back our friend, Anthony Burokas.
Thank you. My mic is off. I'm not muted, right?
No, you're not muted. You're good. Good to go.
I'm just playing with these guys. We had some muted fun earlier today.
We did.
Good to see you guys. Yes, it's just you talk about like things have changed and yet they're still kind of the same. It's like we're all done with COVID. No, wait, no. NAB is canceled.
So fast. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's it.
And then just today, I saw that Ross already backed out of IBC in Europe, so who knows if that one's going to go down too.
Hard to say. It's a moving target right now, without a question. I mean, it's helpful to have your perspective, of course, because we're in New York, where basically you can't walk outside of the building without proof of vaccination, and you're in Texas, where you can do almost anything you want at any point in time. So I think it's good to have a sense of what's going on around the country. Because, a lot of people travel for their events. I mean, we have things coming up in different places, and everybody's got different rules. So
everybody does have different rules. And, while I'm reading, I'm looking at LinkedIn, and on one hand, Ross announces that they're not going to IBC. And then further down the line, Church Facilities Expo, which is happening in Dallas, is on. And they're at that expo. They've got some photos. It doesn't look like there's a whole lot of people at the expo, but it's still on. It's not canceled. So there's things that are happening, things that aren't happening, and a lot of things like I write for Streaming Media Magazine, Streaming Media Producer. I'm going to put that out there. Been working for them for over a decade. So if you aren't already subscribed to Streaming Media Producer, they get a great newsletter that goes out every week. They hold a conference, and the conference that Streaming Media West was going to happen, and then it was now turned into a virtual event called Streaming Media Connect. And so it is several days of seminars, all of it free. And like most of the virtual events, it's just super easy to get in, super easy to attend, and things like that. I've both attended seminars that other people that I wanted to learn from, and I have also given seminars there. So it's really good. But I think that is really leads us to kind of like today's topic, which is like people have gotten really good at producing streaming events, and even Zoom has kind of gotten better and better and better. And they just announced this whole cloud meetings platform or events or whatever they're calling it.
You mean at Zoomtopia?
Yes, at Zoomtopia.
Zoomtopia.
Yes,
People thought I was making that title up. I wasn't. They made it up, not me.
It's like if you could create an event and come out with a bigger self-congratulatory title, that would be it.
That would be it. Wow.
But we all know how to stream. Doing streaming is easier. Technology, if you can get a graphics card, then doing streaming is even easier and easier these days. If you can't get a graphics card, there's hardware. I get a chance to show these things. So like there's the YOLO Live. If people have ever seen the YOLO, I got to tilt it because there's a light. There's a YOLO Live, which has got like this. It's a whole streaming kit in a box. It's got multiple HDMIs, Ethernet, even a webcam. I don't know why they do that, but they got a webcam in there. You can stream to like all destinations, RTMP, and this is your monitor. This is your streaming producer. This is your encoder. That's it. That's the whole thing. And they just came out with the Pro version.
Wow.
Which has a bigger monitor, and it has 3 HDMIs and a USB and a USB-C. So I think that's 5 camera inputs, as well as giving you an HDMI out for preview in addition to streaming and analog audio input. I mean, it's a little kind of overkill, and it'll record on SD, and you can put your SIM card right in it, and like that's the whole thing. Wow. I mean, so streaming itself is just getting easier and easier. But one thing that I think a lot of people, especially like gearheads like me, what a lot of people haven't put as much thought into is that place where the event and the streaming goes and the audience goes, is that meeting in the middle part. It's like a lot of people are like, well, we're just going to put it on Zoom, or we're just going to put it on Facebook, or we'll just put a white label page, and then people will go to the page and they'll watch it. But in this year of COVID, over a year of COVID that we've had, and I know other countries have been locked down even more than the US, there have the explosion in virtual event solutions providers, I think, has really taken over. And I think like the announcement of Zoom at Zoomtopia was actually just a reaction, because traffic was kind of going over to these other platforms. And at DHD Films, we use one called Air Meet. You kind of meet in the air. And there's other ones called Hop In. There's Huva. There's several of them out there, and I'm sure there's many that I've never even heard of, but are in use, say in India or in other countries, that are just really, really big solutions. So there's lots of solutions out there, and I just wanted to like have a discussion where we talk about like, if you're going to try and recreate an event, and people like going to these events, not just like, I'm just going for the seminar, I don't want to talk to anybody. Says no attendee ever. I'm just going to talk to this one vendor, and I won't even look at anything else. Says no attendee ever. They want to browse. They want to walk the aisles. They want to have discovery. They want to bump into people and make those connections. And like, how do you recreate that in the cloud? And that's what I think a lot of these providers have been trying to solve, and the solution we've picked for DHD is called AirMeet. And, we've done several events with this. Like, early last year, we were doing the streaming part, but then, we kind of hooked into AirMeet, and we've gotten better at AirMeet. And then these solutions themselves, literally on a week-by-week basis, it's sort of like, hey, now you can do this. Hey, look, you can do this now. Oh, look at this. Oh, there's a whole new section. It's just insane, Like, StreamYard itself has, like, a weekly event where they like take in feedback and they say, oh, okay, now you can stream videos directly from your desktop. Oh, and now you can do this. You can change the order of your media, and their tools are being continually updated. So, it's just exciting to see the explosion of these tools and how they can provide these solutions for that meeting place between the streaming provider and the audience, and try and do it in a way that more recreates the event that we want to attend. Like, I don't just want to, watch a Zoom seminar of somebody talking. I want to be able to hobnob and chat with people and things like that. So I've got on my desktop, wink, wink.
Is that what you were winking for?
Was that the cue?
See how well this works? I'll be honest, guys. I am a streaming producer, and I'm not driving.
There you go. We didn't practice that either. That was live.
We have
there you
you
go.
totally at our mercy.
So this is one like this is AirMeet. You can see up here in the corner it says AirMeet. And at DHD Films, we have a meeting, in-house meeting every Tuesday, and we actually used AirMeet to host one of our meetings because we have it, we use it internally.
Right.
It's just like this really nice place where you can go in and poke around. And these are just the splash screens. We've done different types of summits, and you can see like these are the different sessions. Then this is another festival that we did, and you can see the speakers. So it gives a nice, it's like a brochure as to what's going on with these events. And even the Treat Tuesday, look, this is Aubrey. She is our AirMeet expert. So we actually have somebody on staff who is in charge of the hybrid events. I'm in charge of the streaming part. She's in charge of the cloud. And we even have a demo where we can walk people through what it's like. So this one, I'm already logged in, and this is what the reception area looks like. You can see, here's these key sessions. You can join the session. There's nobody in the session right now because it's just a demo event. But, down here at the bottom, you've got sponsors, so just like you would walk through, a thing and you'd see Black Magic posters everywhere. I don't know how they do that, but if anybody who has ever been to NAB, the Black Magic posters are everywhere. And I should be wearing my VMix lanyard because they've been the lanyard for like the past couple of years.
The lanyards. I got them everywhere. Maybe not VMix, but those lanyards. It's like every time you go somewhere, there's a whole mess of lanyards.
It's a branded lanyard, man.
Absolutely.
So you could. This is the event that you can go to, and in addition to like a nice greeting page and of course a schedule of different events. This is super easy to do. You've got this lounge, and the key thing here is it's like walking up to a high table in the lobby, and you can see, wait, there's somebody here. Hey, there's Jack Black. He's an actor from Paramount Studios. Actually, no, it's not Jack Black. I just have another laptop over here logged in already. And then you can sit down at the table. You just click on it, and then next thing you know, you're going to be sitting at that table and talking to Jack Black. So there you go. Turn on my camera, and it should be
there you go.
This camera over here on this laptop is talking to that camera over there on that laptop, and you're having this conversation with somebody, could be anywhere in the world. It's like Zoom. But the cool thing is, it's like, hey, I don't want to be at this table. I'm out of here, Let me go over to this other table. Let me go to this table. Let me go to that table. And you can see who's at the table. So if you wanted to like meet up with somebody, you could say, hey, let's go out in the lobby and sit down at a table. We've got a help desk. So you can actually have somebody staffing it. Like, how do I do this? Or I tried to download the media from Sony and it wasn't working. How can I do this? And they can help people through that. And then booths. That's where the the experience is. You want to go to a virtual NAB, you want to go to the Sony booth, you can click on the booth, and then the cool thing is the booth is kind of like its own miniature event. They can have their own videos playing, they can have their own seminars, they can have their own booths or their own tables. So if you want to have a bunch of tables, and this person's sitting here with the new DSLR, this person's sitting here with the new Sinalta, this person's sitting here with the new Sony Vaio laptop or whatever, and then you just walk up to them and they're explaining and then you can ask them that question. Oh yeah, this new DSLR that I saw, the A7S, whatever. Can it do this? And what about that? And what about that? And you can actually ask the engineer right there at the table. Okay, great, thanks. And you leave. And somebody else walks up and asks the same question.
Right.
But that is sort of like the best recreation of like a virtual event. And you tell me, Ryan, how this compares to like the tools you use.
Yeah. Well, I think, excuse me, we're obviously talking about the virtual conference category, right? There's more than one thing going on. And in that category, just like you said, there are, other players that are similar. Hopin is one that for anyone who's tuned into this show before, we've talked a fair amount about. There are certainly similarities, and then there are certainly some noticeable differences. One of which I like personally, as far as what AirMeet brings to the table, is the tables view, right? I like that for a particular reason. That is, when you get people who maybe aren't so technically savvy, recreating the event experience, recreating the things that are familiar to them already, gives somebody at least a sense of their bearings right off the get-go. And we always say for Hopin, any new client, and again, they all have strengths and weaknesses. For Hopin,
yes.
we always tell people, figure your audience is going to have about a 10-minute learning curve before they really get what's going on here. And that tends to be the case, So maybe, again, on the AirMeet side, maybe that's a slightly lower learning curve. It's kind of hard for me to say, but at least looking at something like that, when the table side, there's an immediate contextual information that I can kind of tap into at that point.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuck out to me. Now, I also found it's interesting because Hopin seemed to be one of the only platforms that we had touched on that actually had a video infrastructure built in. Whereas a lot of them are more of like a hub where you'd have the links to Zoom or Google Meet or whatever, and they're kind of centralizing this. But I thought it was interesting that AirMeet also has a built-in video infrastructure.
Yeah, and the video infrastructure, I have to admit, we're actually in the process of building an event for something coming up, whereby we typically produce in vMix and we do all our calls in vMix, and so that we can have that granular control. But for this event, we're actually looking to do the whole thing in AirMeet so that every person in the audience, if they want to raise their hand and speak, we can bring them up to the stage and they will stand right next to anyone. Like, you've brought me on, but, you can only do 10 people and, minus 2 producers, you can only bring on 8 people, and there's a limitation in StreamYard, whereas AirMeet and these platforms, they've gotten really savvy with the production quality, whereby it's sort of like we can have 300 people in the audience, somebody raises their hand and they've got a legitimate question, boom, like you're now standing on stage with the microphone, right next to the presenter, equal with them, asking your question. And that's just really nice to be able to do that in the same platform.
And that's on the main stage. You can do that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, and you can bring up multiple people, because you could even have we can bring in one person. We could have a remote presenter come, so 2 presenters, but in 2 different locations, and then we can bring up somebody from the audience, and the person in the audience can say, "Yeah, I want to ask about you both. How do you do this?" And then, "All right, thank you very much for your question," and then they can talk about the answer.
Right. Well, and that again, recreating some actual in-person event experiences of that, being able to step out of the crowd and onto the stage, maybe it's a microphone in the crowd or you're literally walking up there, but again, recreating those experiences. And I think that's really important. I wanted to ask about, as far as main stage production capability, one thing that we like on the Hopin side is that there are RTMP capabilities, so that if we wanted to dress up the main stage, that'd be something we can do. Does AirMeet have that capability at all?
Yes, yeah, I think they're all going to be, fairly equal in that. Yes, we, like I says, we've pretty much, standardized on producing in vMix and then sending an RTMP to AirMeet so that the show has the look and polish that we want, because AirMeet and probably Hopin and the others, they're kind of like StreamYard in a way that this is our look and feel. You work within the confines of this. Here is your background. It's not a video. It's just a background. Right. Here is your titling. This is what the titling looks like. You're not going to have, get to pick an animated, with flourishes and a transparency. And we can do that in vMix, but I can't do that in AirMeet, because that's not their thing. They're not television production tools, but they're that meeting ground. So you get titles, but not titles.
Yeah. Well, and oddly enough, it's funny because having produced virtual conferences, the premise of having that multi-track, faceted event with booths and tables and all that, the premise of having full customization over lower thirds for all of those spaces makes me want to say, no, I don't. It's so much to manage already. You can, feel free to feel differently. But it feels like there's so much to manage, and you said you had a person dedicated to the hybrid side in particular, and to the platform. It's so much to manage on the admin side to put it all together that the level of creative control I just think doesn't need to be quite the same, to the same extent that vMix can produce. And if you just, limit that to maybe just the main stage and dress that up, then great. But for every breakout room and every expo booth, the idea of really customizing everything, it just seems like a lot of admin work for not that much added value.
That's a really good point. It's like, for the main stage, you can do a fully produced thing and RTMP it in. And then also because you're not going to be bringing people from the audience, because you can't have an RTMP show and then also have the audience come up because the speaker is not local in the event too. So you're choosing to do either, you're doing it in AirMeet or you're doing it external and you're just RTMPing and AirMeet is literally just passing through the stream. It has playback within it as well. Right. So you could have videos preloaded and just cycle through them and things like that. But, speaking to having that granular control, definitely. Mm-hmm. I agree with you. And for the most part, what people type in as their information, you could look at, no, I don't have that open. I'm looking at the other window and it just says Jack Black. That's literally all it says. So it's in the little chat area, it just comes up with the same thing that StreamYard does. It just comes up with the name. It doesn't put actor, Hollywood, all the other stuff. But I think if you come up on stage, it actually does come up with more of that content. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it is kind of like handing a microphone out into the audience because you're giving, people the ability to just, I'm just speaking to my laptop and my screen and, so that audio quality just is presented out to everyone. And, for most cases, I think that's going to be good enough. You don't need to have main stage level lavalier microphones and all that.
Right. Absolutely.
And what about the blending it with an in-person audience? So now the infamous hybrid. We have an in-person event. We have, 200 people in person, but we have 10,000 people online. Can the two interact? Because I think that's really our next step of where we're trying to go.
Yeah, that's something I basically look at hybrid events as like an X. You've got your local host, your remote host, your local audience, your remote audience. And how much you want them all to interact between each other. The local host has to hear the remote host, and the remote audience has to hear both of them. But then if there's a remote audience that needs to contribute, then everybody else needs to hear, it just gets really complicated. And, you can do a lot of that in AirMeet, and we actually have done a hybrid event where we did have somebody on stage with a local audience, and then the remote audience was in AirMeet so that they could participate, and there was like a tech help area, and different other vendors can take booths. And, that's really where that comes into play. I even have, we can take a peek at the back end a little bit.
Yep. Wink, 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 wink. You didn't use the high side.
So I didn't. Yeah, I kind of figured I didn't need to. We're all good.
That's all right. I got you.
So you can have event entry and participants. So there's different levels. You can have people just walk in. You could have people just they have to be on the list, and if they spell their name wrong, they're not getting in, and things like that. So you're going to need somebody. Like a real event, you're going to need somebody standing at the front door, checking names and working out problems. Right. People are like, it's going to be hybrid, so I don't need that many people. Actually, you do need almost just as many people. You need somebody to make sure each session starts.
You need a hybrid bouncer?
Yeah.
Nice.
You do. You really do. Because not just the person at the door helping people get in, but you get somebody that starts who does get in, especially if it's a public event, and they start, like, well, this other product's better. I don't like this product. It failed for me. Yeah, okay, you're leaving now. Thank you very much for coming.
There's the door.
Exactly. Your venue settings, the schedule of events, all the different top, events that are going to go on. You could assign speakers and hosts. So a speaker is somebody who's actually going to be on stage. A host is the producer who starts and stops the event. You could check out, who's got what booths. So there was the DHD booth. This is where all the sponsor information can go. You have your stage backdrop. So obviously you can change your what's on the stage. You've got different video. We've got videos loaded, and all of those videos are available in all the different sessions. So you can have one startup video, or thanks for coming, and one closing video, and it's available to 50 sessions. So you don't have to upload 50 videos. Your stream, you can even send your AirMeet, main stage out, but you can also have concurrent schedules, so you can have 3 tracks. I don't recommend going past 3 tracks, right, but you could have more if you wanted. Your ticketing, you can record everything. It gives you analytics, integrations with other tools. So that's where all that really kind of comes into play in terms of, it's just like organizing a real event.
Right.
It's a thing. You need a staff of people to that's why we've got somebody in charge. And then other people will be doing, the graphics and design work. We have editors creating the video and other, materials. I'm handling any streaming aspects. So there's a team of people that when you go to these platforms, it's, it is, the more you make it like a real event, the more it's like a real event.
Right. Right. Well, and the interesting thing, one of the interesting takeaways is that, especially in a type of event like this, where we're having a virtual conference, multifaceted, lots of stuff going on, you can't just be a technology provider. You have to be more of an event manager, right? Because you can't separate the technology from the event. It's not just the AV guys in the corner or the streaming guys in the back of the room. It's like the whole thing is married together, and you have to be able to be a service provider at that level. Otherwise you're not going to be very effective. So actually, one of the questions I wanted to ask you, as it relates to AirMeet, what level of access can you give a client? Because a lot of the time they'll say, well, can I just do that? Like, can I set that part up? Because maybe I have 17 speakers and I want to make sure they get set up properly. Are you able to give them access, or is it more of like work with your dedicated contact and tag team?
It's more of a work with a dedicated contact, because, integrating each of the pieces in the right place, each platform, the way Hoove is going to do it is going to be different than where AirMeet does it. So if they have experience at AirMeet, then they could possibly be brought on as a contributor and help fill that stuff out as well. Right. But if they don't, I wouldn't necessarily. It's sort of like here's I know how to drive a car. Okay, well, don't put me in a tractor trailer and expect me to do double clutch with 27 gears. It's not going to happen. I don't know how to drive that tool. It's a different tool. So I wouldn't necessarily want to have. And like you said, technology can be very overwhelming at first, especially in all these different sections. Well, where do I put this, and what size does it have to be? Why does it not look as good as I wanted it to look? There's a lot of, even with, like with everything, experience really comes into play. We've done this, but we actually found this works better. From doing it. So on one hand, while you could upload a super big graphic, just give me this size and it's going to look awesome. I don't need every bell and whistle.
That's certainly true. And another interesting point you had made a little earlier was on the updates, right? Like all of a sudden there's this new feature. And that's the other thing, we were talking backstage before we jumped on here, was that it's really hard to be an expert in everything that's out there. Some would say that that's impossible because there's so much change. Yeah, I would agree.
I would say it's impossible.
But I can't tell you how many times like I've gone to start a Zoom event or something like that, and there's an update that just happened. I'm like, damn, like something just changed, and now my plan has changed. I mean, has it been anything like that, or has it been more, call it, advantageous, like new opportunities that you want to take advantage of?
Well, when we started using AirMeet, it worked one way, and then they went through and they had a big update where they reorganized how the projects were laid out, and they reorganized where different assets got placed into things. So, at that point, when they do a big update like that, and it's all based on user feedback, because, these platforms are growing these things every week, and to do that, they're listening to user feedback. And when enough users sit there and say, listen, I really need to do this, I really need to have, like one thing, it's like, I would love to have a producer role that doesn't show up, whereas, your speakers show up and your host shows up and everything. But I would love to have like a producer like me. I don't need to be on any list at all. I'm just the man behind the green curtain pushing the buttons, and, moving the levers and stuff like that. So to have, to add that role, but then of course they have to like change the entire engine to know what that person can touch, but how are they not shown? And, so big things like that take a while, but then other things like, I would really love to have, to be able to change the color background on the title. Oh, okay, boom, now you can do that,
Right.
Like StreamYard, when I first started using StreamYard, you had a choice between 2 different titles. Then all of a sudden, it was 4.
Yeah.
Now you got the rounded button, which is cute.
You don't like the rounded button?
It's okay. I like the gray one because it's translucent, but the colored ones are not. That's what I'm saying. It's like if it was translucent, I think it would be a little nicer.
We'll go on the Sunday night meetings, and you can suggest it. And they'll probably have it a week later. I mean, to be honest.
If you're in the StreamYard Facebook group, I've posted a couple things in there, like when you move your cursor over, like you're playing back a video from your desktop, which is interesting. That was a great update in and of itself for StreamYard. Right. Like, I've got a 15-minute video. I can't upload it, and sharing it through a web browser window, that was just a nightmare.
Yeah.
So being able to like share this video, was super awesome. And the interesting thing is, look, I get a playhead, I can move through, make sure it's all there. It tells me what the time code is, or, the control track, time, how far I am in the video. I get a start, stop, I get a volume control, but I don't get any of those with the video that's built into StreamYard, which makes no sense. Right. So it's like, we need those same granular controls with the video that's in StreamYard, so that when I play a video, I can see where it is. And I says, listen, when you put your cursor over the playhead and it tells you 38 minutes and 15 seconds, I said, what would be really useful? Do a little math and tell me how much is left.
Right. Yeah.
Just give me 2 numbers there. It's like I'm 38 minutes in, but I'm 2 minutes left. That's what I need to know. I don't really need to know 38 minutes have gone by. That doesn't really help me. No. 2 minutes left. That really helps me. So I put that request in, and the first comment was like from one of the admins of the thing who tagged somebody else and said, feature request.
Yeah.
Yeah, they move pretty quick.
So who knows?
In
the next few weeks, all of a sudden that may just, hey, look at that. That's how fast all these tools are moving. They're listening to feedback, and you kind of have to like be, keep your, eyes open, your ears open, because they are making announcements of what things are changing, what's coming up. And so if it's a tool you really do use, you got to like really be in tune with it to be able to then leverage that tool for your clients so that they can use it for their audiences. It's Absolutely. Really all what it's about, is just creating a better experience for the audience.
Well, that actually brings up a good point, right? We're talking about destinations and using these as tools to create an event. But I don't know about you, we work on a lot of different types of events. And so the question is, when do you apply what tool, right? If we look at Hopin, we go, all right, well, Hopin's not a fit for this type of event. If we look at Zoom, we go, Zoom's not a fit for this type of event. We have another thing that we use all the time for a specific event. How do people make the decisions as to what platform or destination is a good fit for them?
It just really comes down to I think a really thorough discussion, between, because you get people that, I had the event that's coming up. I had a person call me and says, yes, we need to do a streaming. Okay.
Thank you.
And then you have that discussion. It's like, what do you want to stream? Well, we're having, our quarterly meeting. Okay, great. So we can stream that. And, it's going to be, and we're going to have people at the location and people on stage, and we need to stream that to other people. Okay. And then what about those people? Do they need to contribute? Yes, they need to be able to voice a concern with an issue that's being raised. So then we need to have the audience, remote audience, as well as the in-town audience, all be able to be on stage with the presenter talking about this thing. And I says, okay, that's not a streaming event.
Right.
It's like the more you got to really ask all those questions and flush out everything this needs to do. And that usually, you end up like, remember the little kid's toy that has all the different shapes and all the different holes?
Right.
You usually end up with a certain sized event or a certain shaped event, and it's only going to fit in a certain number of holes. It's either a round peg or square peg or a star or a trapezoid or whatever, and it's only going to fit into that thing. It's just making sure that you do the discovery to find out what are all the different things that it needs to know what tool is going to be best to solve it.
Of course, there is one caveat in this case, is that in this scenario, your metaphor, the only difference is the round peg sometimes doesn't want to go in the round hole for no reason. And you have to convince them to go in the round hole. Like, no, go to your home. This is where you need to be. I mean, Joe, we've talked about, there's been a couple of instances where we did an event on Hopin that was so not suited for Hopin. And we did an event in Zoom that we're like, you should so do this event in Hopin. And it's just trying to convince people that this is the right tool, and yet they want to go with what they're comfortable or familiar with or what they've been told to do by somebody else.
Right.
But your point is well received regardless.
There is a lot of inertia. There is a lot of this is what, like we say, this is what I know. And, we'll talk about it, on they have the same thing on their end. This is what we know. And we really want to stick with this. Or it could even be a corporate limitation. I do stuff for different corporate entities, and they're like, listen, our company is WebEx and this is going to be on WebEx. Yeah, but this would really work well. We're on WebEx.
Yeah.
Thank you for your interest. We're on WebEx.
Thank you for your interest.
Yeah, we had that conversation yesterday where we were trying to upload media to a Dropbox account. They said, no, we're going to upload it to Teams.
Yeah.
I said, okay.
All right.
We may never get it, but okay.
Yeah. Oh.
And at that point, you just do your best to work within the confines. It's like when I talk with people and we're talking about budget, and people will say, well, you shouldn't talk budget, you shouldn't talk money. I says, listen, I can do, this to that. It's like I could do all different levels of stuff. I need to know what level you're at so that I don't talk about this when your budget is this. Mm-hmm. It's just a waste of my and your time, and that recently just happened to me. It's like I had somebody and they said, oh, we want to do this, and we want to do this, we want to do this. Okay, 4 cameras and, this and that and everything. And they said, yeah, your budget was like $2,000 over. We went with this other company. I said, well, $2,000 over what? You didn't tell me what the price was,
Yeah. Well, that's funny too. We talk about it on the sales side a lot. It's like you ask for a budget and they say, "Oh, we really don't know. We have no idea." And then you give them the price, and then there's always a budget after that, isn't there? Well, that's too much. Well, too much? Okay, so we have some sort of benchmark here that I wasn't privy to an hour ago.
Right, and I throw it out there, just the very facetious. If I'm talking to someone and just it's like, is the budget $500, $5,000? $50,000, just, ballpark it for me. Because there's been, like Mary Kay will do a Zoom, but it'll be a $50,000 Zoom. It'll be a kick butt 5-day seminar, and it'll easily be $50,000 to produce. Right. And then you'll have a local, arts organization. Literally, they have $500. That's all they've got. If you want, if you can help them, you can help them. If not, it's not changing. It's $500.
Yeah.
So there's all ranges in between. So I just, I love to be able to just give me ballpark.
Absolutely. Well, and I always laugh too because we get some requests, whether it was an in-person event or what have you, and they're like, "Can you just add on hybrid? Can you just like add it on?" And we're like, "That's what a comment that is. Like that's a whole discussion in and of itself." And that was unfortunately the nature of a lot of discussions we've had recently, which is like, how late can I tell you when we're going to pull the trigger on this mysterious thing that we still don't fully understand? And it's I know we kind of glazed over some of this in the beginning of this conversation, but out in your market, have you been experiencing a lot of that where people are so indecisive and they're not really sure what to do, or would you say things are a little bit different than that?
I think it's I think it's several things. I think it's a little bit of indecisiveness. I think it's also unawareness. It's like people don't really understand what a virtual event offers versus a Zoom versus, just a landing page, and so there's a lot of education that has to go on, and that takes time to just inform the potential client, like, okay, this is what this can do, this is what this can do, this is what this can do, and this is what they look like, this is how they work. And by the time, it's sort of like, going into, the car dealership, this is what this this is what the S, the SEL, the limited, the super duper touring, whatever,
Yeah.
There's a wide range of things, and you have to like go through what the different packages offer and what the different solutions can offer. And then of course, as we talked about before, it's a little bit from their end, like, well, we think we just need this, but even they might not know the whole scope of things, because they may be working in office and the director of marketing says, okay, we're going to need to do a stream. And when they say that, they're thinking hybrid event, but they tell the person stream. So then they reach out. They reach out to like providers and say, okay, we need to do a live stream. Okay, we could do that. And then weeks later, we find out, no, there's an in-person audience, there's an external audience, and we want the external audience to be able to ask questions of the people on stage. I'm like, dude, that's a whole different thing.
Right. You had this big grand concept in your head that didn't necessarily translate to streaming, right?
Right, and that's why it's important not just to have the discussion, but also make sure that you're having the discussion with the people, like the right people. Not just the first year marketing intern who's been tasked with finding a provider to do this thing, but talk to the actual marketing person who understands the full scope. And it might even be them. It might be the assistant to the CEO who is working, and it's like, and they told the marketing person who told the assistant, it just whispered down the lane. And by the time it gets to us, it's not what they said.
Right. Well, now out of curiosity, what, again, kind of jumping around here, but as far as back to AirMeet, lead times, what kind of lead times do you typically see or recommend to a group that's trying to produce an event that is a fit for AirMeet?
Depending upon how much they want to leverage in AirMeet. It's one thing to have like, listen, we just want to have one seminar track and we want to have these speakers and we want to have an audience that are able to get up on stage. That can be done within a couple weeks. But if somebody wants to have a full-on multi-track, multi-session with vendors, and all the vendors need help with their media and tables and getting all the advertisers media in, and then managing the attendee list or ticketing and things like that, then at least a couple months is when you start working through the whole scope of the project, so that you have the lead time to bring everybody in and make sure that you're talking to all the different people who are going to have booths. You're talking to all the other, stakeholders in this event to make sure that it works for everybody. Because at that point, now, you may have an organization, let's just say NAB, that's holding this virtual event with DHD and AirMeet, but then we also need to have contact points with Sony, with Panasonic, with JVC, with down the line, everybody who's having a booth, make sure that they all have the right access that they need and can get the media in. And if they're going to be offering their own tickets, okay, I got to merge your list with the master list to make sure that the people who just are going to come in for you are also on the master attendee. It adds up. So the bigger the scope, the longer the lead time would be my answer.
I think that's a pretty good answer, because we've certainly seen that as each project changes, that There is more time required. So
Yeah, these days it's not as simple as walking in with a USB stick. Say, oh, I got changes to my
Right,
PowerPoint.
yeah.
We're not doing that anymore.
No.
no, all changes are a little more involved right this second. So, and it usually involves more people, and that's part of it too. It's not
Yeah.
just there's a technician at the back of the room. Go hand that person your thumb drive. It's okay. We have this new video. The version before had something misspelled in the closed captioning, and now we need to upload it to like 4 people, and they're in various parts of the world right this second. So it's just a more complicated process. But it has smoothened out certainly. Have there been other changes you've seen in the last 6 months that are worth discussing? I don't want to tie you up all day, so I want to try to get all the good stuff you got in your head out.
I think people have done enough Zooms and WebExes and things like that I think people have gotten very comfortable talking on camera. Which I know before COVID, having somebody remote coming in, it was like okay, you're gonna need to do this. You're gonna need to like have a nice background. Pick a part of your house. Now people like understand that.
Right.
Like, maybe they might be in their living room and set up like a temporary background or something like that. Who knows? It could be
I see what
something
you did there.
yeah, thank you very much. But it's as simple as that. Working with them, I think people have gotten to the point where we have evolved in our remote contribution proficiency. So if I am going to be in a meeting, I know not to have my bedroom or close the door so the dog doesn't run in, or, put my phone on silent. It's like we would always tell people who are going to walk on stage, put your phone on stun. And people have become more proficient at it, just like, using video as a skill, being online as a skill, I think has gotten better, and it has gotten easier for us as producers to make the show look better, because all that hard work that we had to do in 2020 with people who are like, I can't get my headphones to work, I have no idea, no idea. I think we've really gotten past that, and by and large now we're able to like not worry so much about like, we're still paying attention to it and we'll help people with it, but at this point that has gotten easy enough that we're able to more focus on the larger picture and make sure that these things look better and sound better and work easier for everyone.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I could certainly agree with that, and we've certainly seen some similar trends. We joke around, and I think I might have mentioned this to you last time, that things kind of went in stages, because it was at the very beginning of the pandemic, it very much was trying to get people to a base level of functionality, right? To like get to the minimum threshold of being able to use this technology. And if you were able to help them do that, they were like, oh my God, you're amazing. And then it was like, okay, well, like we could do that. Now what else you got? And then it was like, okay,
right.
Well, we can do graphics and raise the production level, and we can add more to this show. And it's like, okay, great, thank you. All right, now what else you got? And we're like, damn, you're right. It's like as people get more savvy with it, you need to be able to provide more service than they can bring themselves. And a lot of the time that is that coordination, and then the execution, of course, and then coming up with people who can step in and fill those roles, as the complexity goes up. So, definitely seen, a fair amount of the same types of things, but, interesting sign of the times.
Well, just like the software has to update, we have to update. And then we're their communication portal to to the world. So it's exciting. You get to keep learning. There's always something new. I mean, that part's pretty cool. Like it is. You get to constantly be updating your skills. But
I agree. And it definitely helps make things easier. Plus, I think there is people. Initially, it's going back to the hybrid events. People initially were like, it's like I have to do a Zoom. I would much rather do this in person. And I think we've gotten to the point where we realize that you can, if you accept it, have a good online experience. You can, it's interesting, like, I just can't interface with these people online in the WebEx. It doesn't work. But then at the same time, we would do, a FaceTime with friends. Well, it's the same thing,
Right.
you know. It's just your the way you come into it, you know, has a little bit to do with it as well. So now we're, you know, people are saying like, listen, if I create an event, a space where it's got a picture of a table and you see somebody at the table and you sit down next to them and you have a conversation, you can accept that as you actually connected with that person. You know, even if it was remotely through a computer, we created an environment whereby we've enabled you to have those opportunities to connect as if you bumped into each other in the hallway.
Absolutely. And you can connect to a larger audience is the reality. I mean, we did our own training session. We put it as a hybrid event. We had an in-person audience.
Boom!
We had, wow.
Sorry, I saw it sitting there. I had to.
I wasn't even ready for that. But we had remote presenters. We had a remote audience. We had people in India, in Ireland, and 5 other countries, in Singapore. We couldn't have connected with those people if we weren't doing it in this method.
Right.
It just wouldn't have happened, you know? So there's a lot of pluses. I think just like you're saying, you have to just think it through. What are you trying to accomplish? Let's all ask the questions so that we can find the right path to take all of our clients. And it sounds like you guys are really on the right road. Do you want to tell us anything quick about DHD Films before we wrap up?
Sure. DHD Films. It's a great creative space. We have got lots of super talented people in-house, you know, and we are doing both narrative filmmaking, image campaigns, communications, training videos. A lot of people, you know, a lot of companies are actually, you know, growing right now and trying to bring people on, and onboarding is a thing. So making sure you got the right training materials. And then obviously, you know, I'm involved in streaming, and we have a great live hybrid event team as well. So and we're based in Dallas, but you know, these days with the cloud, you can host this event for anyone around the world.
It's really great. Now, I love learning more about AirMeet. I think that looks like a great tool, you know, and I'm certain that we're going to explore it more ourselves, because like we're talking about, things are evolving. We have to be aware of what resources are there and what's a good fit. It might be a great fit for some client for us. So I'm sure we'll be talking about that. The YOLO, I'm going to have to research. I didn't know about the YOLO Live. So, but
interesting little tool. So check out my review in streaming media when I finish it.
There you go.
And when will you be finishing it?
When I'm done.
When I'm done. Back
Okay,
off,
good
Joe.
answer. Good
Jeez.
answer. I'm sorry, that's my role. I'm used to asking that, you know. But listen, Anthony, thank you very much for your time today. I mean, you're doing great work, and I love all the information. You guys can catch Anthony pretty much anywhere and everywhere. I mean, he's literally all over the internet at this point. But thank you for your time, and you know, I know we'll be catching up with you soon.
Hey, I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you again. This has been a lot of fun, and you know, I like talking, you know, hearing a little bit about the other platforms as well. You know, because that's really what it's about. Sharing this information helps us all become better.
Absolutely. Thank
Excellent.
you, Anthony.
Anthony,
Thank you.
We'll see you on the other side. Well, Ryan, we learned a lot. I mean, Anthony always brings a lot to the table.
Absolutely. No, honestly, I got to say the AirMeet is not something I had heard before he brought it up. And just like you said, this is a great way for us to, you know, always stay ahead, hopefully, and learn more about what's out there. Because again, it does seem like there's something new every day. And, you know, when you get a vote of confidence on something from somebody else who is, you know, a streaming professional and an events professional, then that obviously moves it, you know, more to the top of our list in terms of things to focus on, right?
That is one less thing we need to vet before actually looking at and trying it out. I mean, the first 6 months was vetting things, you know, for the whole pandemic. But listen, let's wrap everything up here. We're about 50-something minutes in. So Ryan, let's.
I'm going to go for three for three. Okay, I'm going to get them all right. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Please show us some love. YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. All of those. Check us out wherever it is that you consume content. And of course, you can drop us a comment and we will answer it live, or let us know something else you'd like to hear and we'll try to pick it up next week. And last but not least, Wednesdays, 1 o'clock Eastern, which we realized we actually had to tell somebody who is coming in from Texas. It is actually Eastern. We're in New York, and we are in the digital age. So check us out every Wednesday, 1 o'clock, and we will be right here, hopefully, with some more guests. How'd I do? 3 for 3. Nailed it.
3 for 3. You hit it, man.
No script. This is off the top, off the tippity.
You just blew my mind.
You know, and after this, I'm going to tell you what YOLO means to the kids, because it's a different thing.
You're going to have to tell me that off camera.
There you go. Yeah.
Listen, Ryan, let's take us out. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you
Thanks, everyone.
next Wednesday, 1 o'clock.
Adios.
Ciao.